So we have three boys. Our oldest is 19. His name is Demetrius. Our middle child is 10. His name is Nathan. And then we have our youngest, who we call our little miracle child surprise baby.
They're all miracles.
Yes, his name is Isaac, and he just turned 7, actually. Our two oldest both have global developmental delays. The doctors really don't have a real name for what they have. They really haven't diagnosed it. They've tried too many tests, and they just call it global developmental delays. While our oldest is more severe. And our Nathan, the middle one, he started walking maybe 3 years ago. Praise God for that. And our youngest, like we mentioned, Isaac, he's typical 7-year-old boy that just likes to do a bunch of fun and crazy things.
Well, and God's hands on Isaac, you can see that even now, but go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, amen.
So we have been praying when Rick had asked us to share a story of something, a miracle that God has done in our life, and something that no man could even comprehend. And God had pressed the story of Isaac, just how Isaac came into our life. And just to share a little bit background, I was 15 when I had my first child, so I was not married to Danny. And I was a single mom at 15 raising a child that had a disability. And then I met Danny, and we decided to have a family together, because that's what you do when you get married. So we actually had a really hard time conceiving Nathan, and going to the doctors and just really trying to figure out what the issue was. And we got pregnant with Nathan. Supernaturally happened, and we got pregnant with Nathan. And during my pregnancy with Nathan, I had this just very unsettling feeling that something was wrong. And I remember telling Danny, like, something's wrong with this baby. And he's like, Sandra, stop prophesying. Don't say that. And I'm just like, Danny, I know it. And I would tell people at work too, because they would see me and they would just see this like look, and they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, there's something wrong with my baby. Like, did the doctors tell you? I'm like, no, but I know. And it was just, one woman at my job, I think she asked me for 9 months every day how I was feeling. And every day I would tell her, I'm like, there's something wrong. I feel it. And we had all the tests, everything showed that Nathan was fine. Well, Nathan's delivery day came, and the doctors went to go hand him to me, and all I could do was say, literally, is just put him back, cook him some more, because he's not ready. And he was full term. It's not like he came early, but to me, I just felt like there's something wrong. And I felt it in just like holding him, I felt it. And, we went through, and then slowly we started to notice that he was having some delays. He wasn't meeting his milestones that he was supposed to be meeting. And, so I fell into depression because I could not understand or comprehend how a God who loves me, loves us, would give us 2 children with special needs. And I remember I would be so angry, and I'm like, God, Mary down the streets having 10 kids, and why doesn't she have a kid with special needs? And I was just so angry with that, and just fell into, and then I would be out in public, and people would say, isn't she the woman with the 2 kids with special needs, the 2 different fathers, because they have 2 different fathers. So now I felt like a lot of the blame was on me. And I'm like, God, you missed a screw. You did something wrong. Like, you did something wrong when you created me. And I was just so hurt. And I have a long history with disappointment. I wasn't raised with my mom, just rejection and all this stuff. So all that stuff started to build up again in me. And I was just like, I felt rejected. I didn't feel love. I'm like, how can people say this God is a God of love and he gives you the desires of your heart? Like, none of that made sense to me. And I was just a newer Christian, because I wasn't a Christian before I met Danny. So I was just, really starting to have a walk with God. And to make a long story short, because there's so much to this story, we had gone to see a new doctor for Nathan, a neurologist, to see if they could figure out what was going on. And And there was a lot of events that happened in the meantime, but we went to that appointment and we had Nathan, it was Danny and I, and we were like, they're going to figure it out. They're going to tell us what's happening, because here we have 2 kids, 2 different fathers, and I seem to be the only same person in this situation. And we go in, we sit down, the doctor comes in and she's talking to us, and then she gets, it got very hard because she literally looked at me and she said, obviously, no bedside manners at all. Obviously, the problem is you. It's something that I knew, at least I felt, because I knew, it was obvious. The situation was so obvious that it was coming. Whatever these children had was coming from me. And I was like, oh, she's harsh. And I just remember just crying and just her telling me, a lot happened at the appointment, but a couple of things that she said to us was,
one of the families that she worked with prior to us had a similar family situation, where they had 2 boys that had special needs as well. She had a hunch that maybe one of the parents carried this particular gene in the system that predominantly affects boys. She never told them that, but in the process, they ended up having a 3rd child, and that 3rd child was a boy, and he was severe special needs, and so she felt very bad that this happened, and she didn't tell them about the hunch she had. Anyway, so she thought of us.
Yeah,
so
and she thought we would probably have the same situation happening. So, but the way she just came off, and I was crying, and Danny stopped her and said, she's already doing all this to herself. Like, she doesn't need you to do it. So this is what she said that literally changed me in that little moment. I got really, really angry. I was already kind of angry with God, but I got really angry when she said, I would advise you not to have any more children. I would actually, she's like, I really would. She's like, I would not. And she said, and if you don't, and I said, okay. And she's like, but if you do want to have children, you can try. But she's like, what I would recommend is when you can find out, when you find out the sex of the baby, she's like, if it's a boy, you could abort him, because most likely he would have, she was so sure, and she made us so believe it, because she's the doctor, she knows it all, right? So she made us so believe that this would happen to us. So we laughed, and I got in my car. I was so angry with God. I gave, Nathan to Danny. We got in the car, and I just cried the whole way home, and the stuff I said to God, sorry, Lord. I said, because I was just so angry and so upset. I'm like, you give people the desires of their heart, and now they're telling me I can't have any more kids. And just, I was just so angry. I was just so like, I will never be able to have this child that I've always dreamed of. And with everything, my whole past kept coming up, and just the stuff that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't, all this stuff within seconds just like flashed before me. And I was in a very bad place that day. So I came home and I said to Danny, I'm not having any kids, because I could never abort one of my children. I didn't do it at 15. I'm sure enough not going to do it now. And I said to Danny, I'm like, we are not going to have any more children. It's just not going to happen. So, and I am going to say this, because I did say this to him. I said, as long as it takes for us to figure out who's going to get fixed so this pregnancy thing doesn't happen, you will be without, because I am not getting pregnant. Sorry. It was just part of the story. And I did. And because I was just I'm like, don't come near me, because I do not want to have a baby. Well, long story short, because it is a long story, I went to the doctors because I was sick. I thought I had flu. So I go to the doctors, and the doctor gets me in the room, and she's like, hi, Miss Riviere, she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I think it's the flu. She's like, do you think you can be pregnant? Well, I lost my mind with her. It was like putting alcohol on a wound. And I started to like, no, there's no way I could be pregnant. And she got a lot of my business within that, because I was just sharing with her how we went to the doctors and they told me I shouldn't have any more kids. And I'm like, I haven't done anything, so I know I'm not pregnant. I was so adamant about not being pregnant, like so adamant. And she's like, I still have to because the antibiotics I'm going to give you. I'm like, don't bother. I know I'm not pregnant. I've never been so confident saying something in saying that. So come home and it's, I'm laying down, it's 8:30 at night and the doctor calls me. She calls me, Danny picks up the phone and he's like, it's a doctor. My heart dropped because I'm like, she's going to tell me I'm dying, I have cancer. She's going to, pregnancy never came to mind because I knew I was not pregnant. Like, I knew I wasn't pregnant. Like, I knew it. And Danny answers the phone and he turned white, like white as a ghost. And he's like, it's the doctor. And I'm like, I think he started to get nervous in that moment to feel like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. They're about to tell my wife something. And God only knows what went through his mind. So he hands me the phone and she's like, hi, Miss Rivera, earlier today in the office, you had said, we had met and you taught, I did a pregnancy test and you had said you're sure you weren't pregnant, but I have some news. Your pregnancy test came back and you're pregnant. I'm like, oh, no, I am not pregnant. I was like, that 1% that you made a mistake, I'm not pregnant. And I just went into this, like, I cried and I was just like, my feelings were all over the place. So I'm like, this woman is like playing tricks with me. Like, there's no way. And just to push the story a little further, because I could be here all day telling you this one story, but I leave the house, I hang up, I tell Danny and I'm crying. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm going to kill you. I was like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, that's great. I'm like, great. Did you not hear what the doctors just told us? So I go to the pregnancy, so I go to the CVS to pick up a pregnancy test because this is the blood work. I did not believe her. And I go, buy a pregnancy test and come home, take the test, and she was right. I was pregnant. And I was just like, I couldn't even fathom that moment. So then I go to my doctor's appointment. So now they're telling me how far along I am. So I come home, Danny and I are talking. We go back to the calendar to the day that we were meeting with the neurologist. I was already a month pregnant and had no idea I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea I was pregnant. So, and going back and looking at that and thinking, Lord, the day I was in the car, you probably just had this smile upon me, just saying, my daughter, you don't know what I'm about to do in your life. Like, I'm about to do something in your life. And I couldn't see it. I was so angry with him that I didn't go to him in like a way of like, I need you. It was like, go, I don't want you. I didn't press in and lean on him for comfort. I actually turned to my back and, and God still loves me and still just like, he knows what's going to happen. He knew. And, so my whole pregnancy with Isaac, I was just like, I was sick a lot, but I was just like, I feel great. And I'm like, it's like, this must be a girl, right? Because they say that when you're pregnant, you're really sick and it's a girl. Like, there's just a thing that they say. And I was like, oh, having a girl, this is going to be great because she's not going to have special needs. And we know the doctor said it's in boys. So we find out what we're having. And to our surprise, we're having a boy. And I still have to say there was this peace in me that I knew I was going to be okay just because of the way things had happened. And so we find out we're having a boy, and 9 months, the same woman at work, how are you feeling, Sandra? I'm like, I feel great. And she's like, how's the baby? I'm like, he's fine. And God literally gave me this peace in this, just like, I knew he was going to be fine. I knew. And Isaac was born, they handed us to him. I, held him. It was just the experience was totally different. And, he started to meet his milestones. He actually started walking at 10 months, which I completely freaked out about because I'm like, now we have an alien. I'm like, I don't know what to do with him now. And just so So in all that, just to the detail of what God did, and I know that was God, because even when we go to doctors can't even fathom what happens. Like they're like, we thought we had it figured out. And, but God is so detailed that he didn't give us a girl, because he knew if he gave us a girl, people would be like, well, they had a girl. So that's, yeah, of course she would be fine. And he gave us a boy to just show people what he did and only what he could do, because there was no way to explain the story to any. I'm still, even when I go through my hard times, God literally reminds me, I've given you a walking miracle in your home. So when you don't have hope, or when you're tired, or you feel like, where am I? I'm right in your house. Like, I've given it to you for you to see what I've done. And God has taught us so much through that with Isaac, and just really, just the way he is with his brothers and the way he is with us, and that what God has done is just, we can't even fathom.
And even to think his name,
means laughter.
And the story behind that it matches his story and our story.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey guys, thank you so much for sharing this with the church family this morning. And we know this is going to be a help to somebody who's listening.